Okay, guys, we are on chapters 12 through 14 in our book, Get Over Yourself. And I'm really excited about this week. I can't believe we only have one more week together. And I'm so proud of everyone for keeping your reading up and moving. But honestly, this is a great book, isn't it? So when we have those pieces of time to read, it's good reading, and it's reading that I know for me, I feel like I'm just thirsty for. And I love some of the things that she talks about. We already know, we already do. And other things are like, oh, I need to tweak it a little bit. And so I think it's just been fantastic for us to do it. We will be together next week, and that will be it for us. Chapters 15 and 16 next week. And I'm very excited. I did share a little bit with you that we will be doing a new book study, and we're going to start that. We're going to kick it off in January. I am opening up that study to all of Gem Explosion. If they want to participate, they can. My expectation is that you will participate because you're part of the Road to Maui. And we will do a special kind of like this meeting time of just this group, of really doing some action steps around it and putting some activity around it. We're going to be pretty heavy on IPAs starting in January. I kind of allowed you to do your thing this semester, which I know everyone's doing and doing fantastic, but we're really going to become accountable because we all want this bad. And so we're really going to kind of rubber meets the road starting in January. So be ready for that. I'm not ready to share the book, although I'm pretty sure it's the one I'm going to do. It's a book that no one has read yet at all or heard of. I don't think that you've heard of it. And so I'm pretty excited about that. And lastly, I'm sorry I have so many just little things, but I want to make sure that you know these things. We are actually, we being some sideline partner jewels of mine that I'm really excited about, that are all under Roslyn. We're all either emeralds or sapphires. We're going to do a power hour. We're going to do one next week. I will have a graphic on our page on as soon as it's ready. I think it'll be ready tonight. There's about 5 or 6 of us that are going to do a power hour. It's going to be 11 o'clock Central on Tuesday. If you can participate, we are thinking that we're going to start doing power hours every week, and they will be flexible times. So sometimes during the day, sometimes at night, because we know that we have some people that can do it one or the other. So know that if that week is a daytime one, the next week will be a nighttime, and we're going to get that schedule going. And I'm really excited about it, of pulling everyone together to be able to do that. And then lastly, whenever I was just getting everything ready this afternoon, I hope that you are sharing what you're learning with your teams. You know, take these nuggets, do lives on your team pages of maybe a chapter at a time or a concept at a time, or bring this into your nightly trainings if you do team calls or anything like that, or post about it if you feel better posting versus lives. But be sharing with your team the things that you're learning. You know, she said so many times in this chapter, which she says in all of her chapters, I think, she really talks about duplication, and for us to have good habits because they're going to be duplicatable, and get rid of the bad habits because they will be duplicatable. But as you're learning, you need to be duplicating what you learn. And I know for a lot of times, leaders that are just getting started in that leadership role and leading their team, they're always saying, but what do I post about, or what do I share? These are great things to share, and just take snippets. And you literally could break out posts throughout your entire week to be able to have information for them and just kind of spoon feed them a little bit in how you're learning and what you want them to know. So stuff to think about, okay? So let's get started on chapter 12. And chapter 12 is all around treating others well, right? That golden rule of loving well. I always use that loving well piece. I know Amber talked about some of that last night. Being able to inspire others and encourage others. One thing that I thought about in this is, you know, we always talk about being your very best VIP customer service, right? Like giving them top notch. And being able to do that because that's how we want to be treated. And so we want to feel that way, and we need to treat others that way. If you're talking to someone and they've talked to another ambassador, she really talks about this. And I love this because this is part of our culture, is that if people are talking to us, we always want to ask that question, are you talking to someone else? And a lot of times we don't think about that in the beginning. We just start a conversation. We're excited about people kind of initiating those conversations. Or a lot of times we started it, and others, we don't ask that question, and they've actually been approached several times. And so it's really important. And she really kind of goes through this in depth. And there's tricks within that, right? Of just, okay, what does that mean? How does that feel? And the bottom line is the importance of integrity. The bottom line is having that conversation. And if they are speaking to someone else, you always need to be able to say back to them, I always say, I'm going to share my heart with you, and I'm going to help you the best I can. I'm going to answer your questions, but you really do need to go back to Sarah. If Sarah's the one that started with you and y'all have a friendship, I would really ask that you go back to her, because that's just what we do in our business. And I think it's important that we do it that way, because I would want people to treat me that way. If I was talking to someone that ended up with another ambassador, I would hope that ambassador would do that for me. Now, their response to that changes the way that you do your business and how you continue the conversation. They might not know that person well. They might not have a true relationship with that person. There's all different pieces. Or they might be wanting to do the business, and that person doesn't do the business, but you do the business. So those conversations have to go through. One thing that I love that she says, that is what I would tell you every single time, is if that person is pretty adamant about being with you and saying, no, I don't know that person, or whatever that is, you need to put it back on them. They need to have a conversation with that ambassador to say, hey, I tried it. It was great. Or I know I've tried it for a couple of times and I haven't been consistent, but I want you to know that I really want to do the business, or whatever it is. And I'm making a decision to go over with Melissa. They need to have that conversation, not you. And you need to put that on them. Yeah.
Can I just interject here?
Yes, you can.
Thanks. As you know, and some of my team knows, because I've talked about it before, this situation happened when I joined, because I had several months before bought a bag of Slim and didn't take it right, didn't drink water, just took it every once in a while, whatever. And it was very dabbly kind of thing. And I said it didn't work. And the person who I bought it from, I mean, I really didn't understand. I didn't know anything about Plexus. I hadn't seen people posting. I hadn't seen anything yet except her, or I would never have got it from her. But I did. And then when I just kind of told her, no, I'm not, I'm not going to keep doing this because it didn't do anything, whatever. She really didn't follow up. She didn't do a lot with me. However, several months later, when I saw Melissa posting about it, about health and all the health pieces, I was really surprised. Didn't know Plexus was health. I thought it was only weight loss, all that. And of course I felt like joining, under Melissa. Well, we talked all about it, and we did vet that out. I told Melissa completely about my situation before, and she checked it out and everything. And, we decided to do that. But I do believe, after reading this chapter and how she's talking about this, I do believe that it would have been a good idea for me to have gone back to her and tell her that I was going to join with Melissa, because what happened after that was very ugly. It brought out a lot of ugly things as far as from her side, because I had never said anything to her about it. The next thing she knows, I'm an ambassador under Melissa, and I've had this great story, and she was very upset about it. And she kind of took it a little public, and it wasn't good. But I could have been avoided if I had gone to her and told her. Now, that would have been ultra scary, and I don't even know how I would have done that. However, I do think it still would have been the right thing to do. And so I'm just saying, putting that out there just from experience, that if you don't do that, you may see a ripple effect. That's not good.
I love that. I totally forgot about that, Laura. This is what I love. When Laura and I started, neither one of us knew anything. Neither did my upline, because we all started about the same time, and she was flying, and we didn't have books. Guys, we didn't have books to read. Like, we just really didn't know. And, but we do know today. And today, I really believe from an integrity standpoint that you do have to go through those pieces. And as hard as it is, it's so important. But I'll also say, with even kind of tagging on to what Laura just said, there's going to be people out there that are still going to make it ugly. They're still going to make it hard and difficult, and they still might make it public. But what we have to, we can only control ourselves and our own character and our integrity. So as long as we are doing the right thing, we cannot do anything with the response of another. As long as we are kind and good, and we are loving them well in a process that they don't want to hear, as long as we are professional, that's all we can do. But absolutely, I think that sometimes we're going to have to go through those hard pieces. And I will say also from experience that go through that hard piece in the beginning, not in the end. Be upfront from the very, very beginning of saying, this is how I do my business. And I do my business, I really want to be in good standing. And so let them know those pieces up front and work through those pieces in the beginning. It doesn't mean that you can't still answer their questions. And there's going to be times that you will lose someone because they will go with someone else. But I promise you, you will be blessed in the long run. It's kind of like she talks about karma. I don't know that I believe in karma, but I do believe in what the Lord is doing and how he sets our plans in place. And I do believe that whenever we work from a standpoint of integrity and that we bless others, we will be blessed. And so you've got to know it. You've got to believe it, even though it might hurt there in the beginning. I always knew if I lost someone because they did go back to someone because I suggested it, right? I always knew it's okay. Number one, I learned from it. Number one, I continued to work on my skills and my business professionalism. I answered questions, which developed me as a leader. It's going to be better because I'm developing myself through the process. So know that. If you'll look over on page 167, I want to talk through this real quick. She talked about follow meeting and event etiquette. I thought that this was so important for us to hear and to work through. And this is so critical. Like, when we are talking, we need to think about what we're saying in front of prospects, in front of customers, in front of new ambassadors, because a lot of times we really do get all into being with a friend that's a business partner and just start hashing out and talking through and forgetting that we have prospects or customers or new ambassadors with us that don't know everything yet. And we're sharing information that could scare them away, that could make them feel negative because they don't know the fullness of the story. Or even more than that, if we're talking negatively about another person, I know for me, when I'm in a group of people and I hear people talking about someone else negatively, I automatically think, if they can do that with me around, then what are they saying about me when I'm not around? And they're with other people. So it goes back to that integrity standpoint of who you are and your character and your right standing, if you will, in the community. So you need to know your surroundings and you need to be professional at all times whenever you're having these conversations. Especially, it makes me think about our conversion, right? What are we saying? What are we doing? What is our posture with prospects? You have to be professional. Definitely share with them. I was just talking with someone today, one of my customers that can't get into the back office. I stayed very professional. I shared with her that I heard what she was saying. I let her know that we were definitely going through a conversion, which I'd already shared with her last week. But I problem solved and figured out how to help her so that we could move forward, and let her know in a couple of weeks that we would be able to get into that back office and make things right. But for right now, I made things right by giving her product and just getting some things taken care of. our posture is everything. And whenever we're going through negative situations, or whenever it's been a really, really hard day, we don't need to share that openly. You know, we've always said in Plexus, to make sure to encourage down, right? But if you have a frustration, having frustration up. So talk to your upline if you're frustrated. Don't talk to your customers or to your downlines about that frustration or that negativity, or to your sidelines. Go to your upline, get rid of it, and move on. And so make sure that you're doing that. I do know that Laura Heinrich and Michelle Harrell, you hear me talk about them all the time. They've been doing this journey with me from the beginning. They are my confidants. They are my downline, but they are my business partners. And so they hear a lot of things that other people might not hear of me working through situations, and they help me work through it so that I can move forward. Now, you might have those people, but be very careful. In the beginning, I did not see them that way because they were my downline, and I was bringing them along to get to a place of belief and making sure that I served them well and making sure that I helped problems solve with them. But we've been together almost 4 years now, and it looks different today. So be smart, and there's a maturity level in your business and as you have business partners, and make sure that you're thinking that through. So I always say, always go up, right? Go to your upline, have those conversations, get everything figured out, and then be positive with your customers and with your downline. Any questions towards any of that in chapter 12? Okay, let's look at chapter 13. This was a great one. Your time is worth $962 an hour. I love this. It is your most powerful, most valuable resource. And I loved, you know, did you feel like, I hope that you went through this process, and I want us to talk about it, but did it impact your work knowing your worth? Did it? I know that it did for me. I've never thought through the concept that she had. So my past in corporate America, I went from corporate America to a contractor, and I worked for myself and contracted out and did projects for 3 different corporations in 3 different industries. And I did that for several years before I went into seminary and nonprofit. And I was billable, and I proposed certain hourly rates. And the more I did it and the more expertise I had, the higher my rate went. And, but those hours, I was so intentional with my hours, and I always prayed, and I still pray today in this business, to be highly efficient and highly effective with my time, because my time was worth something. And from an integrity standpoint, I was not going to bill them unless I gave them 100% in those hours. And I've never thought about moving that concept into what I do today. I still pray about being highly efficient and highly effective in the time that I can do my business hours. But I've never thought about that hourly rate, because it does make a difference. It is a mind shift adjustment that I think is really, really cool. And so I just wanted to ask you what that looked like for you, and how you made, you know, what were those adjustments? Did you work through it?
Yes, I worked through it.
Did it make you think differently?
Yeah, it did, but it also confirmed some. I mean, I've heard some jewels speak to this same thing. Like Sonia Dudley did a call once, and it was been a long time ago, where she talked about how your time is so valuable. Don't do things that other people can do. Like, you're the expert at you know, recruiting, you know, following up, getting new people, getting new customers, you know, training your people. And so pay someone to clean your house, or you know, don't spend your valuable time doing things someone else could do. And so, but she talked straight to that. The same thing that, you know, I remember from that call. So,
yeah.
But it really does make you think. It really does make you think when you're just going to sit there and if you're going to sit there and scroll Facebook, you're going, oh my goodness, what a waste. No.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that.
I mean, literally my brain triggers as soon as I get on Facebook, and your immediate is to scroll, and I immediately shut it down. But it took me time to get to the place of going, no, like I'm not going to do that right now. And so switching it over, it's so important. Well, I want to talk through a couple of things because she had excellent concepts for managing your work schedule. And so I want to look at this about being efficient and effective. First of all, she said to have everything in one place on one calendar. I think Amber talked about it last night. It could have been a different training because I've been listening to so many different ones. But having everything in one place and having it all together, and then scheduling those priorities of what's priority. And guys, I'm going to just show you this real quick. I want you to see what my calendar is. I actually just ordered another one today for next year, and it is still my go-to. I went this weekend, looked at a million different calendars. I love the corporate calendar, don't get me wrong, but this is something that I have used for years. I used it in corporate, I used it in seminary, I used it in nonprofit, and it still has become the most efficient calendar I've ever used. It's not pretty. And I know I love pretty stuff. So this weekend I went and looked at several different stores going, oh, surely there's one that's pretty. But when she talked about this, it really just made this stand out for me again. And it's called Planner Pad. It's very ugly. See, it's just gray. But I want to show you what it does because it really does go back to exactly what she's talking about. And there's definitely days and weeks that I get way too crazy and I can't get this done in this manner and I'm not as efficient. And I'm talking about in every business I've ever been in. So it's not just network marketing, but if you do this and you follow it and you're intentional, your days will fly with the hours that you can spend to work towards it. And what it does, I'm going to try to show you from afar. If you look, I'm going to show you just one page. If you look up here, it's broken in 3 sections, okay? And up here, all the way across, you make it your priorities. And so I have columns. One says family, one says Facebook Lives, one talks about my level 1s, one talks about my team pages, one talks about my administration, stuff that I don't want to do, like mileage and things like that I have to get done. One is on prospects, one is on training. So I build my own, whatever it is for that week, okay? And you put whatever it is. This is where, like, literally I capture everything. When she talks about putting it all in one place, it all goes on here and it goes into a category. And if I don't have a category, I make a category. But then from there, look at my Monday and Tuesday. You break it down and you take whatever is across all that stuff and you say, this is what I have to do on Monday. This is what I have to do on Tuesday. And you break it down. And then look at the bottom. You build your schedule. So that shows you. And whenever she talks about making your priorities, my priorities go on there first. Like, I had to go to the grocery store today. I had to have hours towards the grocery store. I'm going to do the grocery store. My quiet time, I'm going to have my quiet time every day. I schedule it. Like, I'm not going to allow meetings to get into that space. If I have meetings that I have planned with others, those aren't going to get moved, right? I schedule my IPAs. But what it does is now you have your to-do list and you nail it and you go, that's that billable hour of what am I going to do and when I'm going to do it. And if I happen to have free time, I go back up here and say, what did I not get to mark off that I have time to do now? And I mark it off. Otherwise, it goes to my next day. So it literally, you've got it right in front of you. And that, I just wanted to share that with you. I share that with so many people because it's like a funnel. So that's literally the concept is you have the big picture at the top. And then the next section, you break down your priorities. And then the bottom section is you schedule out your week. And you do what you schedule out. And it's been so good. So she tells you to do those things. And then, just like we hear from every leader, On Sunday nights, you set that vision for your week. So what does your week look like? What are your priorities? Put those priorities into place, schedule them. They're non-negotiable. You can't move them. Get those things down, schedule your IPAs, and do them at the time that you schedule them. Now, you mamas, I know that that looks different for you. You're going to have to be flexible. The baby doesn't go to bed when you think that they're going to take that nap and different things like that. But you work that the best that you can. At least you've got a foundation of something stabilized to where that's your goal, is to work towards that. Then she says, schedule your 3-way coaching calls and your coaching one-on-ones. Get those things scheduled. Have your list ready. And I love, so, you spend that 15 minutes on Sunday night, and then you spend 5 minutes every night before your next day. Guys, I did this in corporate. Like corporate, I sat at my desk before I left. I made my schedule of what I didn't get finished today that has to go at the top of my tomorrow. And then I look at my tomorrow and I schedule it out, and then I closed it up and I went home. Same thing that we're doing here. And it's so much more important in network marketing because we are flexible and we do have time that kind of moves and sways. But if you don't set those priorities, I promise they won't get done. So set your goals and your priorities for every day. And then I love how she talked about those traffic meetings with her spouse, and sitting down and saying, okay, this is my schedule and that's your schedule, but I'm going to go one more level. I actually traffic it with my kids. Now, I only have one child left at home, but I did it with my girls. I did it in the summers when my girls were home. Do it with my husband who travels every single week. We kind of have to sit down, and sometimes it's on the phone, sometimes it's late at night, sometimes it's in the morning before he leaves, but we traffic it out. And with Joseph, he knows without a doubt his times are non-negotiable. I'm going to be where he wants me to be. But he also sometimes knows my things that are non-negotiable. So if something comes up, he kind of remembers so that he doesn't feel like, oh, Mom, you weren't there for me. Well, no, I am there for you. But remember, this was a piece that we talked about together that I cannot miss. And it makes it really comfortable to bring those people in. We've always heard about bringing in your shareholders and having them in the conversation with you of your vision and your working and helping you through that. This kind of goes that next level of that scheduling, of being intentional to say, hey, babe, like you are important to me. And so I want us to work through this. I want us to have a date night. I want us to be able to be there for each other. But you've also said yes to me working this business. And so here's the areas that I need to have 3-way calls, or I need to have team meetings. So work through those things together. Okay. Any questions towards that? I absolutely love. Are y'all doing that today? Are you working through making that happen? Have you been successful with it? I want to hear. Okay. So I'm going to assume that nobody's doing it today is my assumption. Everyone was silent.
I already have I liked the extra stuff she had about planning out on like Sunday nights. Mm-hmm. I kind of do that, not exactly how she has it. Mm-hmm. And for me with teaching, it would be way too much to do day by day. So I have to do Sundays and I plan out the week.
Great.
And so that's how I plan out my 5-3-1s. And then I usually just kind of go through my like YouTube playlists on the drive to school and listen to things. But when she said put everything in one place, that like spoke to my OCD heart, mm-hmm. because I have done that since I was in like high school, and people always thought I was crazy because I still have this huge paper planner. But I do that, and I'm like you, I have to have it cute. And so I'm like literally writing down, how can I make my cute one work like your planner pad?
Yeah.
So, so working through those things, and it's got the to-do stuff, and it's got the boxes for each day, and I write down my schedules. And if I don't have anything, I can tell because there's white space. So definitely write those things down. And I have a Plexus one, a different one, where I write down, that's where I write down my 5-3-1s, and then it's like horizontal on the days. And so that's where I can check that off and then file that into my system. But I really like
so important. Yeah. I mean, for me, I have my calendar and I have my IPA notebook right here that keeps me accountable to myself. And I have my index box. So those are the threes that is my business and that is my work. So figuring out how to put those pieces together. Laura, what about you? How do you do yours?
Well, I was just going to say that, I've done this Sunday night thing for a long time, and I first heard it from you probably, but then I've heard it from a lot of Jules too. So, I mean, it is something that successful people do. It's like a practice that, that's helped me hugely, because my days look different every day, because Hunter's schedule is different every day, and I have to drive him, to the different timing. And, so for me, I like to look at the week, and then I know where where my chunks, where's my time going to be, and then I do the few minutes every night of, okay, now does this still look right for tomorrow? Like, is this what I'm thinking?
Right.
And then who am I reaching out to tomorrow? Who do I need to follow up with? Now, the one thing that she said that I'm going to start doing that I loved was everything in one place. That is what I do not do, and that would be very effective, because right now my to-do list is not on my calendar, it's just off. Well, then everything just needs to be together, because it's a one place to look for everything, and you're not going to be scattered here, there, or have a sticky note here with a thing or whatever. I just need to have it all in one place. Then I know exactly where I can look for my brain. My brain will be in that book. That's what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to just put on our page, our Maui page, just my planner pad video so that you can see the concept, because you don't have to use that calendar. If you want to make the concept like Stephanie, you still want it to work in your cute calendar. It gives you the concept of having all of your to-dos in one place, all of your priorities, and then figuring out how you're going to do it within your week. So,
Melissa, oh, go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, hey, Shelley.
Hey.
From teaching before, that's one of the things that I got in the habit of. But because I don't have kids at home anymore that I really need to take care of or be at events, I've kind of gotten out of that habit. And one thing that I love is, yes, I haven't got, we haven't got the planner yet that we earned, but I'm excited to get that. But the High Achievers Playbook, I know a lot of us use, and it does come with a calendar book in the back that you can pull out of a pocket and open. And I think I'm going to really start utilizing that more.
Yeah, that's a great book.
I love my playbook. I really do, because I even put down there my personal, things that I need to get taken care of that day. But on a side note, those of you who are in Texas, look up, there's two different shopping apps called Instacart and Shipt. It's SHIPT. They will do your shopping for you and deliver it to your home. You go on the app, you choose what you want. And I've had the flu since last Thursday. There was no way I was going to make it to the grocery store before Thursday for Thanksgiving. So I did all my Thanksgiving shopping today through Shipt, and she delivered it right to my front porch.
Mine's on its way, Cindy. Thank you for that tip. Yes.
It's so liberating. It is just so liberating to not have to go to the grocery store. I enjoy it, but there are days that I just can't get there. And another thing I've been doing is, I don't know how many of you have the little speakers that you can suction cut to your shower wall, but I use my shower time. I'll go on YouTube and I'll find a video from a diamond or an emerald that I, like the subject matter or something, and I listen to it while I'm in the shower.
Hey, Cindy, do me a favor and put those things on our Maui page, those two things.
Yeah.
And a link to those speakers. Yeah, that'd be great.
Melissa, in our area, it's Kroger, Aldi, Whole Foods, and Tom Thumb on Instacart. And I've got mine. I just got a text saying that my Thanksgiving
is on the way.
Is on its way, and then I'm loading that up and loading my mother up, and then I'm headed to Paris.
Oh my God.
But back to how we do things, I have to plan. I have to double plan, because my plans get sabotaged a lot, even the things that can't change. But I do this. I use a legal yellow pad, and it has everything on it. My IPAs, my kids' naps, my shower. I write everything down. I've been doing that for years because I like to check it off. But I just got this book in the mail.
Oh, good.
Yeah, today. So
That's awesome.
because I love Carrie Wilkerson. So anyway, she
Right.
recommended that, and I'm like, okay, perfect day. What is that?
Yeah.
Because I've had some less than perfect days. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
anyway, so when I get cut off here, I'm getting in the car and headed to Paris. So
Okay.
I'll
Perfect.
try to listen as much as
Okay.
I can.
Great.
Okay, after I load my groceries. But yes, Cindy, thank you for that tip because I jumped on that. She's like, why are you going to the store? You don't have time. I was like, okay. Okay, I'm just going to be quiet.
Okay, so let's look at page 175, your stop doing list, which was fantastic of really looking at everything that you're doing. But I just want to bring out some key points here that I thought were so great. On page 176, as a business builder grows in an organization that will start to take on a life of its own, I strongly believe that she should spend at least 85 to 90% of their time on personal prospecting, training newbies who are coachable and responsive, and doing three-way calls. She continues to tell us this. I think it's so important for us to see the success of that. She says, everything I've learned about this profession proves that to build something substantial, you really need to consistently devote 10 to 15 hours a week. And that sounds like, for some of y'all might go, I don't have 10 or 15 hours, but you really do if you're spending 1 or 2 hours a day over 5 days. And I know that as I grew, that was about right, but it was so doable if you are efficient and effective with your time. And I was working full time and was still able, once you get to a certain level, you need to put in that time because of your team and working through those pieces and your prospecting. But then I want you to see also what she's talking about, just that next piece of devoting that 8.5 hours a week to essential income producing activities and the importance of that. And one thing, guys, that it's really going to come out even the more that you build and grow, but also if you don't have a team yet or your team is smaller, I think that you need to look at this from the standpoint of how you are respecting your upline with their time as well. And it says here, how long are you spending chit-chatting with team members when instead you should be having very short, purposeful coaching calls? How much time do you spend rehashing the same concept? This piece is so critical and so important. And I'll tell you, our first thought is we feel bad, right? Like, I want Laura to like me though, and I want her to know that like I have time for her. And I do want to chit chat because it's all about relationship building, right? But you've got to understand that from a professional business standpoint, that there are business hours where you're going to be a professional, and then there's other hours where you could chit chat or have coffee or go to lunch or different things like that. But it's so critical, and I'm going to talk here in a minute about kind of the things that I use, but if you relate that to your people in those coaching calls, they're going to know what's expected in that call, and you really can't be to be efficient, you can't chit chat. And when she talks later about that multiplying and doing the multiple task, if you do this piece correctly, you will cluster your calls to where you're doing one right after the other. And it's really important that you kind of stay on task and on time. So I thought that was important. But I think a big piece for all of us to understand is if you're being coached or you are coaching, and you continue to rehash the same concept, or you're sharing with them what to do and they aren't doing it, there needs to be an evaluation if you need to be coaching them anymore. Because if your hours are $962 an hour of your time and billable, is that efficient and is that effective? And is that a true runner? Are you trying to make them into a true runner? So I think you have to have a reality check there. They might, all I could think about whenever I was reading this is that movie, She's Just Not That In, or He's Just Not That Into You. I thought about that here. Like, we can't continue. I know for me, I get very frustrated if I continue to coach someone and they're not coachable and I keep rehashing a concept. After a while, I'm not going to give them my time anymore. because I just need to work with the people who are coachable. I'm still going to love them. And I'm still going to think that they're an incredibly great, cool person. It's just that it's maybe not their season, or they're not ready to be coachable. And my time's more valuable. And so you have to work through those pieces. The coaching calls, having purpose. I love what she talks about here, and I want you to hear it. A newbie is a newbie for the first month. My newbies, I usually keep them as a quote newbie for 3 or 4 months. But I love that she's like, you better do your work in that first month of onboarding them well. And then after that, you build into these power shot coaching calls that are every week or every other week. And I love the questions that she has them ask. And she goes through that. So I'm not going to go through those 4 questions because I think that they're so great. And I will tell you, I'm going to change a lot of what I do. Now, I work with my level 1s. And there will be months that I don't get to work with them because all of a sudden things are happening really fast and I miss it. And then I get back on track again, and they give me grace in that. But mine are only monthly with my level 1s, or if they're a level 1 that I consider a level 2 that I consider a level 1, and they have a team. And it really is looking at their last month, their prior month. So it's always at the very first week of the month. Looking at their prior month, looking at what needs to be adjusted, really calculating their points and when their next promotion is and things like that. So it's kind of a high level. And then where do you need to be trained? Where does your team need to be trained? So really working through as a sounding board on where maybe the holes are. And it's once a month. I really like this once a week thing because it goes back to accountability. And are they reaching out to new people? And did they have 3-way calls? And, are they having a high level of activity? And if they're not, you don't do the calls with them anymore after a couple of weeks until they're ready to be all in. So think through that, because those are coaching calls with purpose, which is really, really important to be able to go through that. And I think once again, whenever you think about the possibility of, oh my goodness, so I'm not going to have any more coaching calls with Mary. Like, what if she fully fades away? Because I keep doing this as a touch point. But if we have to do the reality check, right? That if they're not doing the work, they don't desire to do the work. Now, there's definitely times where it might be a fear factor that you have to work through. I understand that. I mean, that's a grace point that you work through. But if they're just not doing the work, you really do have to kind of cut the reins and say, okay, and move on, because your time is too valuable and you're going to use it with people who need it, right? And want it. I don't think it's needed. I think it's want it, because I think we all need it, right? We see where people need our coaching, but they have to want it. They have to want to hear it. And so having that reality check a little bit. And then she talks through working, working with your body and what your body clock is. I thought that this was so, so great. And I'd love to hear a little bit from you guys on this, are you a morning person? Are you a night person? And when do you do your IPAs? And when do you do your coaching calls? And I really do love this, because so many leaders, they've been very successful, but they a lot of times say, do it right before you go to bed. Make sure you reach out to those 5 people. Make sure you reach out to those 10 people. Well, guys, I get up about 4:45 every morning. And so by 10 o'clock, I want to be in my bed reading a chapter of a book that helps me fall asleep, and I'm going to bed. Like, the thought of having to be excited, enthusiastic, wanting to share, like, that's not in me. That's not my productive time, and that's not my high-end time. I'm a very much of a morning person. And so after my morning ritual of everything that I do in my mornings, that's when I'm ready. That's when I'm ready to have those conversations. So that's when I personally do it. And I think it's just great for you to kind of do a body check, right? And when's the best time for you, and do it during that time. What did you guys think about that? Was that good to think through?
I love that. That really, because I have been kind of thinking that on my own the last few weeks. Because when I I always think, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna get up early. I'm gonna try to get, some of this stuff done in the morning, and then, because on paper it looks good, and then have the rest of my day, that kind of thing. But that's not how I'm wired.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to kind of come to terms with that. It's like, okay, so that's not my best time to try to get my IPAs and stuff done. And I'm learning that my best time is early afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually when nobody's here.
Mm-hmm.
And that, because generally that's when it's the best, probably for most people, when you're, no one's around to distract. But so I'm kind of starting to work with that a little more, and not feel like if I'm not getting up and doing it in the morning that I've already failed for the day.
Right.
It's like, I need to, work around it. Like she said, use my body clock for, and work my business around it, and it'll work out much better.
I love that. I love that, because that's when your high energy is. That's where your
Mm-hmm.
focus is. And the big thing is putting it on the calendar and doing it, right? And not just letting things get slipped away, because, for me, and I still struggle with this, but a lot of times I will do meetings in the morning because it gets my day going. But after I've done my meetings, I realize that I'm not my high energy side. So my IPAs aren't as strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to, I've pulled back on those meetings because unless it's, of course, signing someone up. Now that's totally different. But if it's a prospecting, I work through that because I realize that my high energy time is in the morning of getting all my work done, because I'm a morning person. So I love that. I hope that it gave you like a new kind of excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah. Because I kept trying to do things more at night, because that is when it's more quiet, and they say do it right before you go to bed, and then you're going to fall asleep and you're not going to be thinking about how they respond. And I'm like, but I'm so exhausted during that time. So anybody else want to share? Was that a great adjustment for you?
Yeah,
I like the concept, the whole thing. And I agree totally with Susan. I'm a night owl. If I could text or talk to you at 1 a.m., it would be perfect. I mean, that's when I'm wide awake and working everything. And a lot of times I'll make a plan, and then I feel like if I didn't get to it pretty early in the morning before I leave for work, that it's a failure for the day. And so really kind of looking at that and going, nope, it's not a failure. Other people are up late, even though they're not probably at 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I can at least get some of the stuff done at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and they're still, reasonable times. People could text me back if they wanted to, but like they said, they could always text me back the next day and that'd be fine.
That's right.
But I'm always like waiting for people to text me back.
I love that.
And especially when I finally get the nerve up to call or text somebody on my chicken list, and then I get crickets for days. It's so defeating to me. I feel like, what in the world, like when do you then say something again? And that's what I was going to ask last night on the call with Amber, because I feel like I don't know what to do once I've reached out, because then I just feel like it's awkward when I see them at church. It's like, do they hate me, or do they think it's so stupid? I don't know. I want to hear back. I don't like crickets. If I send them something, and that's why it's hard for me when I make a really personal post, like I'm really trying to be intentional about being right directly to them, that when they don't respond, I feel like, oh my gosh, that was so hard for me to do, and they didn't even respond. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I make something I copy paste 50 times, well, if 38 of them don't respond, okay. You know what I mean? It's not as hurtful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Marie, for me, every time if I send stuff out and it's crickets and I see them in public, I initiate. So I say hello. I walk up to them. Even if you're thinking, oh my goodness, what are they going to think? Because if you don't initiate and they don't initiate, it makes your mind even go more towards the negative. So I have to do my own little self-talk. I have to do my own little pep rally. And I have to go in anticipating that I'm going to see some of them at church, or some of them at my Bible study, or some of them at my workout place. And then I initiate. And so I just do it. I know if I can do it, anybody can do it, because if y'all knew what goes through my brain as an introvert in just making it happen, because it does take away the awkwardness, because then they know I'm going to be chill. I still want to be your friend. I still think that you're really great and cool. And I don't really care what you think about me, because I'm really confident, even if inside I'm trembling. You just kind of have to do it and overcome, but it really does break the ice.
So Melissa, what do you say when you initiate like that? If they
I don't even say anything about my post.
Okay.
Or my message. I just go up and say, hey, Susie, how are you doing this morning? I mean, the people that I work out with, I initiate a lot with them through messages. And the next morning, I'm going to make sure that I speak to them first for them to know I'm still going to be Melissa. I'm still going to love you no matter what. And then sometimes they'll say, hey, I got your post. Sorry I couldn't get back with you. And sometimes they don't. And I have to be okay with them not doing it too. So I still have people that I follow up with. I'm not going to follow up immediately because I don't want them to think, oh my goodness, I'm going to see her every morning at workout and she's going to message me every day. So I definitely space it out. But whenever I follow up with them, it might be about their child, or that one just had surgery and I'm checking on them, or I just saw this article and I thought about you, or they're doing their own other type of network marketing and I want to support them. Like, it's other things that I'm doing touching points on. But then I'm going to come right back around whenever we get that X Factor Kids, and I'm going to shoot out X Factor to Kids to them. Even if I talk to them about something else before, when we get something great, I'm still going to follow up with it. So you just have to change it up. But the big thing is, I think what we always have to understand is we have to have a little bit of the upper hand, and we have to have a little bit of the control. And so if you're messaging people and you're building a business, guess what? You're an entrepreneur and you're a CEO. And with that comes a maturity level. And so with that, you have to suck up some of your feelings and be professional. And you always have to have the upper hand, kind of like we talk about, going the upper road and making sure that. So we do the same thing in our business, that we're going to initiate that conversation because we are confident. And we're doing this business and it's serious and it's important. But if you're not going to reply to me, I'm still going to love you because I'm professional and I love people. And those things are important to me. So if we hide, we immediately start the domino effect. We immediately make them go, oh, now she's hiding from me after she sent that message. So, wow, she must be embarrassed because now she's not even going to talk to me. No, I am going to talk to you. Because this is great stuff.
I wonder, sometimes you have that awkward balance of, okay, I've been messaging them. I've mentioned Plexus a couple of times in messages, and I have been talking to them when I see them, but not mentioning Plexus. So sometimes I wonder, okay, am I coming across as two different?
That's a great point. And it goes back, she said something in one of these chapters, or I think she was actually talking about whenever we send somebody back to the person that talked to them first, she says, go with your gut. But I'll tell you right now, Susan, if your gut is like, I feel a little bit psycho, maybe she thinks I'm two different personalities. If that's your gut, then you need to adjust. I'll tell you that right now. If you are feeling awkward, that means you need to adjust. So if your gut is saying, wow, maybe I've sent her too many messages because now it's kind of awkward, you've probably sent too many messages because now it's awkward.
Okay.
If that's how it feels, that is reality. And you have to say, okay, I got to adjust.
That's a good thought.
Okay. And so it might even be, oh girl, like, I'm so sorry. Like, for me, guys, I don't have a great memory. So that's another reason why I write down everything. And so there might be some times that I go, oh my goodness, I just messaged her 5 times about something because I didn't write it down and I forgot. Then I go to her and go, girl, I am so sorry I pounded you. Totally didn't mean to. I should have realized. I mean, I really do. I apologize because I've done that before. So keep it real. But if you realize you're doing that, apologize for it. Or if you feel like it's awkward, adjust quickly because you have time to adjust.
And it's not that I've sent a whole bunch of messages over time. I mean,
right.
I guess 'cause a lot of times it's a context of, like, at church. And I don't necessarily want to walk up to them and say, hey, did you get my message or anything? So I just talk to them. So it's I guess it's the effort of trying not to let them think that, oh, well, because she's messaging me, she's going to start talking to me about it too.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find that balance. And sometimes it feels weird.
Absolutely. Working through it. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk just real quickly about don't get distracted. And I love the things that she talks through. So I hope that you look at this. We're going to just jump through. But guys, this is so critical. If you're doing billable hours and you're being efficient and effective, and you realize that time is valuable, you have got to do these things. Once again, this is across all areas of leadership and management. This is taught. And we need to do it in our businesses because, once again, our businesses are flexible and moving. And so the more disciplined we are, the more efficient we will become. And so with this, checking your email 3 times a day. So maybe morning, lunchtime, and evening. Oh my goodness, you will get so much done when you're not distracted. Turning off your notifications for Facebook. I promise you, if you will turn that baby off, your life is going to be so much better. And you know what? Even for me, whenever I'm doing IPAs and messaging people, if they message me right back, oftentimes I will not respond immediately because I'm still doing my reach outs. And if I stop my reach outs, guess what? I just triggered myself to not be as productive as I can be. I do my follow-ups later. And I do my follow-ups honestly whenever I don't have to have that high energy, because that's when they're responding to me and I might be having to answer some questions for them. I can do that at other times. And so I'll do that later on. So make sure that you turn off those notifications in Facebook or Instagram. Check those things only a couple of times during the day. One thing that I do that I just want to share with you is if you have an iPhone, I don't know about any other phone, but iPhone, you can go into your settings and set Do Not Disturb. Guys, I do that for my quiet time. I do that whenever I'm prospecting, whenever I'm sending out reach outs. I put on Do Not Disturb so I'm not called, so I don't see texts. I don't see anything. I turn my phone over so it doesn't even vibrate whenever you set Do Not Disturb. If you want to be efficient and effective, make sure that you're doing that. If you need to call your husband to say, hey, babe, I'm about to do my quiet time. I'm about to do my IPAs. I'm turning on Do Not Disturb. Are you cool? So that if he texts you later and you don't answer, he doesn't freak out and call the police, right? So I have a worrying husband, so I always let him know, hey, I'm checking out for a little while. Everything's chill. And so he's cool. So if you have to do that with a child, or if you have to do it, but turn on your Do Not Disturb. That personal prospecting, I love that. She said, turn off all your apps, turn off all your notifications. It's so true because you can get so distracted. A lot of times, depending on if I'm having to use Messenger, I will even do Messenger on my phone versus on my computer, because on your computer, you're still getting all the notifications for everything else going on, or all the notifications of people posting or responding to your post, and you get distracted and you immediately think, oh, I've got to answer that. Oh, she commented on my post. I've got to comment back. You just killed your whole prospecting time. So make sure that you're not doing that. I love that. And then multiplying your time. She really talked through this piece of clustering. And I think that that's such a critical piece of understanding. And that's kind of like even what I was talking about today. Sometimes whenever you get those IPAs going, you just keep moving on that. I do love how she talks about doing 3-way calls while you're in the car. I do that often and schedule that. I know that probably Laura does that while she's in a parking lot or while she's traveling or different things like that. Listening to trainings like Cindy does in the shower. I listen to trainings while I'm putting on my makeup. So clustering those pieces. And then that's last page on page 192, she just talks about the mindset, that there's a specific mindset for the task that you're doing. And so if you cluster those things together, it just uses your time better because you kind of have revved up yourself and then you use that time really well with that. Okay. Any questions around that before we move to self-care? Oh yeah, Stephanie.
Yeah, I just had a question about the responding to prospects. You said something, and I had written down in my book a question. I just kind of wanted to expand on that because I have my email up all day at school, and I've known for a long time I need to just close that puppy. But, at school, sometimes things just need to be answered right away. But with prospects and everything, I did for a while turn off where it notifies me, like, and shows even the badge number on my phone, like messaging. But then I found that I was missing things And so then I just turned it to where it doesn't show the preview. It just shows that someone messaged. And that's been better, but then it just kind of sits there all day. Like today I responded to you, but not to my prospects who have responded to me, but I'm sitting there and I can see like the beginning of their message. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm the same way, like I don't respond right away like you do, but when you wait, how long do you wait? Because I don't want to wait too long, because I've got some sitting from like last night, this morning, and I don't want to wait any longer. But at the same time, we're about to have dinner and I'm on this and then, and whatnot. And I kind of want to sit and think about what they've said. And so I don't know. I just want to hear kind of how you do it.
I'll tell you how I do it. If someone is responding to you, the iron's in the fire and you better go for it when it's hot. So I don't think that you have to respond immediately, but I do think that you have to respond within 12 hours. So if it's morning, you need to respond by the evening. If it's evening and you can officially kind of be off, right? It's personal time. It's okay to respond the next morning or by lunch. Or another great thing, Stephanie, for you, if you really do have to think through some stuff, just being able to say, those are great questions. I wanted you to know that I got your message, but I'm going to answer, whenever I have some time this afternoon after school. You've responded to say, I hear you, I see you. I'm going to come back to you because I'm at work, or I'm going to come back to you because I need to research some things for you first, so that at least you're still touching them and you're still saying you're important to me. So I think that doing things like that is really great. The thing that I would caution you to, especially as you build and you get more and more prospects responding, is make sure that you put it in your calendar where you're going to put everything, right? Because you will lose it if you're getting a lot of messages. I mean, Stephanie, you know that with me. You and I will be doing 3-way messages, and all of a sudden it gets really way down. And what do? You bring it back to the top by saying, hey, Melissa, we'd love to hear your story. Or, hey, Melissa, don't forget. You have to prompt me. With our prospects, they might not prompt us. So if you do respond, realize that it's going to start going down in your feed and you might not remember. So make sure you put a note in your book to say, this is what I got to do tonight. So just that warning.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts around that? Okay. We're going to move to self-care. We're going to move really quickly, guys. Thanks for holding out for me. The bottom line, can I tell you that I have probably in the last week talked to 5 people just over the last 7 days about self-care. I've talked to some jewels about self-care that are not doing self-care, and I've talked to some of our team about self-care. This is such a critical piece, and I love that she put this in a full chapter, and we're not going to be able to go through all of it. Hopefully you've read it and you've thought through it. I just want to highlight some things. But if you want to be successful in this business, and you want to rise to the top, and for most of you on this call, you want to move quickly, self-care has to be in your schedule. Self-care has to be something that you are continually taking care of and doing. I learned the hard way a long time ago with burnout. My personality and who I am, we're all different. Self-care can look different for different people, but it has to happen. But for me, I do have to have lots of self-care, because I know I always talk about being an introvert, guys. But for me to do what I do and what God's called me to do, which has to have extrovert positions every single day, self-care is so, so critical, or I will literally just come unplugged everywhere. And so I'm a little bit thankful that God created me the way that He did, because this is one of the most critical pieces for me, and I've learned to do it really, really well. But it also makes me sad to see other people, because we all need it, not do it at all and literally be frazzled, be burned out, be exhausted, their perspective be incorrect, because they have just burned the candle at both ends. They get sick. They want to quit. So it is probably one of the most, outside of prospecting, self-care is so, so important, right? So I want to make sure that you guys are incorporating this. I always, whenever I think about self-care, I always think about being on an airplane where they say, in case of an emergency, what? You put the oxygen on yourself first before you put it on anyone else. And that is so important in everything that we do as a mom, as a parent, as a leader, as a business owner. Self-care is critical for you. Love yourself enough to do it. And she really talks through being holistic, mind, body, and spirit. Like all of the areas need to have self-care towards it. She talks about saying no and learning to say no, with volunteer working, with certain things in your day and your schedule, of learning that you do not have to do everything. And she also talked about how to say yes, and to say yes to delegating, and yes to help, and having your shareholder as your husband and your children, and allowing them to help you because you all have the same goal and you see what the future is of this business, and working diligently and hard right now, and allowing them to help you means that you're going to open up freedom for your future. So being able to do that. And on 188, I want you to look at this because I thought so much about this, and it's so true. It's in the second full paragraph. It says, whenever she's talking about Nell in Seattle, the successful, and her quote is, "You know the reason there aren't more women millionaires. Women don't delegate. They either don't know how or they refuse to learn, and it's costing them dearly." And I thought that this was so interesting. And, you know, the person who stood out for me, and I don't work with her on a daily basis, so I can only say it stands out for me from the standpoint of watching her. But my first thought was Jen Stanley, and how she has learned how to delegate, and how she and her husband work together as helpmates in this business, and how he made some decisions with his career to allow her to delegate to him because her business was what was going to get them to their future and become a legacy. And I just thought that that was interesting because, you know, Jen Hawkins is just a great businesswoman. And she's learned what she can do, and she's learned how to duplicate well, and she's learned how to delegate and be professional with it, personally as well as business-wise, for her to be who she is. And it's interesting to me also, we all know her, and she is a poster child for Plexus, definitely, but she is not the loud person. She's a delegator. She's a worker behind the scenes. She's always put into the spotlight, but I wouldn't say that that's necessarily where she desires to be. But she's done this well. So I thought that that was encouraging. And she says here in this next paragraph, "I encourage you to get help with your kids." And this is something that I think is really critical if you're a stay-at-home mama. I just spoke with someone yesterday, I believe, or this morning, that has just been given 8 hours of time of bringing someone in. And, oh, yeah, it's one of my Jewel sidelines. And she came and asked me, "What would you do in 8 hours? What's the most critical things for me to do? Because I have gotten some help with my children. And I'm going to 8 hours in one day." Of course, she's going to work her business every day, but 8 hours really, really, really focused. But she and her husband made the realization that spending that money now was good for her, for growing her business, for her future. And so I think that we have to think around that for mamas. I think we have to think around it for taking care, you know, washing the toilets and cleaning the house and spending those 4 hours. Would it be better to give those 4 hours to someone else and you use those 4 hours towards your business? I love what we talked about tonight of shopping, right? So Cindy has made a decision. Well, she made it because she's been sick, but making that from a business standpoint of, is it better for me to go spend 2 hours bargain shopping and couponing and figuring out those pieces and doing that work, or doing an app and then bringing the groceries to me? So think about that. What's going to be the best way for you to be the most efficient and effective? Okay. Then she really talks about personal development. And I love this. I have to schedule personal development. I put it into my calendar because it's critical. Because a lot of times, one thing she says is that gets down to the bottom of her list if her day's really crazy. But if you schedule it out and make that work, and guys, make that work for what you do. Personal development might not be every single day. Now, I can listen to a video every single day whenever I'm getting ready, but the way that I learn is by writing notes and taking notes and listening from I think through writing. So I can listen to stuff every single morning, but if I'm going to do self-development, I have to sit down and think it through and write things out. So I have to schedule those times. Now, Emily Roberts has talked about before on her training. She's a diamond within the company. Thursdays are her big day for self-development. So she blocks out hours of time to listen to training, to taking notes, and to creating trainings for her team. So it can be one day a week that's a lot of hours, or it can be 30 minutes a day. We've always talked about reading 10 pages a day. So, you figure that out, but make sure that you're scheduling it, is my point. The other thing that she talks about is exercising. Huge. I don't care if it's a walk around the block. Whatever it looks like for you, it's so important. And it really is not just physical health. It is mental health, guys. It allows you to download and to think. A lot of times creatively, you can be your most creative whenever you're exercising. But it builds up your strength, your endurance. It builds your immune system. It helps you just from a healthy standpoint. It rids stress. So it's so important to get rid of stress. When my husband works and is not working out, his stress level is so high, and I get concerned about his health. And I'm always like, just get on the treadmill for 10 minutes, but you've got to have an outlet for getting rid of your stress. I think Daryl, he's still on the call. I was about to say, I thought he was on the call earlier. He's on here. I would say, I don't know, he can share with me. I would think part of his stress management is his workout routine. And I know that workout routine is really, really important to him. And most probably that's a reliever of stress. Am I correct to say that, Daryl?
Absolutely. If I have a hotel that doesn't have a workout place or whatever, the day's not the same. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I love that. It sets the pace of his day. And so make sure if you're not doing it today that you will be accountable to start doing it. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be 3 hours. It can be 10 minutes. It can be yoga. It can be stretching in some way. It can be walking around the block. But make sure that you're doing that. And then she really talks through downtime and the importance of rest. And one thing she talks about is the studies that she has that rest actually replenishes and revitalizes. I know for me, I love driving long distance because I can't do much of anything else. I might listen to podcasts and things like that. But whenever I use some of that times of silence and rest of the mind, it's oftentimes my most creative times. And that my to-do list, all of a sudden I think of all the things. And guys, if you're driving, put it into your phone, like speak into your phone so that you can keep the to-do list to transfer it to your calendar later. But being able to do that. I'm going to end with that. She does talk about starting your day right. We've talked about that so many times. And she's talked about unplugging, which I think is important. Tonight, after we finish here, I'm unplugging for the night. I've got all my kiddos in the other room. We're getting ready to grill out. My husband just got home from being out of town for the last 2 days. And I'm going to unplug for the night. And I might jump on for 10 or 15 minutes in a little bit, and that's it. Unplugging. I unplug after team calls. Like a lot of times you might try to find me after a team call. I unplug because I have to replenish myself after having a team call. So finding those times. She talks about unplugging for a couple of days. I do think that's important. And I will say, it might feel like that you can't do that in the beginning whenever you're building your team or building your business. But you will get to a place where you can unplug for a couple of days. Once again, I work with my business partners and my leaders. And if I need to unplug, I get with them and they carry the load for me. They've got my back. And so just know that in the beginning, if you feel like you can't unplug for a couple of days, definitely unplug for a night, because I know you can, or unplug for a morning. But just know that as you grow your team, you're going to grow leaders with you that you can say, hey, I'm unplugging. And they're going to get it. And then they're going to say it back to you at some point, and you're going to carry the load for them as well. Is there anything else that really stood out to you guys that you want to talk about in these chapters? Because I don't want to miss anything that was a critical piece for you. Okay. All right. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. I'm so glad you're on the call. I'm excited about ending this out next week. And I'm so proud of you guys for sticking through this. I have loved this book, so I hope it's been great for you guys.